Welcome to the channel Coinexa USA. And before you skip this video, let me ask you something that might change everything you thought you knew about spare change. What if I told you that the innocent-looking penny sitting in your coin jar, the one you barely glance at when you're counting out exact change at the grocery store, could actually be worth $13 million? Yes, you heard that right. $13 million for a single penny. Most people would laugh at the idea, toss that penny aside without a second thought. Maybe even leave it on the ground, because who bothers picking up pennies anymore, right? But here's the thing. This isn't just any penny we're talking about. This is a 2007 Lincoln penny. And while millions of these coins were minted that year and are circulating in pockets and piggy banks across America right now, there's a special variety, an error variety that has collectors, investors, and treasure hunters literally losing their minds trying to find one. And when I say losing their minds, I mean people are going through entire bank boxes, searching roll after roll, checking every single 2007 penny they can get their hands on, because finding this coin is like winning the lottery, except the odds might actually be better. Now, I know what you're thinking. How can a penny from 2007, a year that's not even that long ago, be worth millions of dollars? That's a fair question, and the answer lies in one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatic history. A story that involves the United States Mint, a critical error in production, and a coin so rare that only a handful are known to exist in the entire world. The 2007 Lincoln penny we're talking about isn't your standard bronze-plated zinc penny that you find everywhere. Oh no, this is something completely different, something that should never have existed in the first place, and that's exactly what makes it so incredibly valuable. You see, back in 2007, the Denver Mint was producing millions upon millions of regular Lincoln pennies. Business as usual, nothing out of the ordinary, but somewhere along the production line, something went terribly wrong. Or should I say, wonderfully wrong for anyone lucky enough to find one of these coins. What happened was that a small number of penny blanks, the metal discs that get stamped with the penny design, were accidentally made from the wrong material. And instead of being made from the standard copper-plated zinc that pennies have been made from since 1982, these blanks were somehow made from a different metal composition. And when these error blanks got struck with the penny dies, they created coins that look similar to regular pennies at first glance, but are completely different when you know what to look for. Now here's where it gets absolutely insane. The exact composition of these error pennies has been debated among experts, with some believing they were struck on blanks intended for other denominations, possibly even foreign coins, while others think they might have been struck on experimental planchets that were being tested for future coin designs. But regardless of the exact explanation, what we know for certain is that these coins are extraordinarily rare, with estimates suggesting that fewer than 10 examples might exist in the entire world. Can you imagine that? Fewer than 10 coins out of the billions of pennies minted in 2007. The first confirmed example of this error penny surfaced at a major coin show in 2009, just 2 years after these coins were minted, when a sharp-eyed collector who made it their business to examine every modern coin they came across noticed something unusual about a 2007 D Lincoln penny. The D mint mark indicates it came from the Denver Mint, and upon closer inspection with a jeweler's loupe and a precise scale, they realized this wasn't a normal penny at all. The weight was completely off. The color had a slightly different hue, and the sound it made when dropped on a hard surface was distinctly different from regular pennies. The collector immediately sent the coin to PCGS, one of the most respected third-party grading services in the world, and when the experts there examined it, they confirmed what the collector suspected. This was a major mint error, possibly one of the most significant modern mint errors ever discovered. The numismatic community absolutely exploded when news of this discovery spread. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know more about these 2007 error pennies, and collectors started searching through their change with renewed vigor, hoping they might be the next person to strike gold, or in this case, strike error. But here's what makes this coin even more valuable and more sought after. Unlike some mint errors that might involve thousands of coins before the mistake is caught and corrected, the 2007 Lincoln penny error appears to have been an extremely limited occurrence, possibly just a single batch of wrong planchets that accidentally made it through the production process before someone at the mint noticed and removed them. This means that while millions of people are searching for these coins, Only an incredibly lucky few will ever hold one in their hands. The first authenticated example that came to auction in 2011 sold for an astounding amount that shocked even seasoned collectors who thought they'd seen everything in the rare coin market. And since then, the few examples that have been confirmed and graded have commanded prices that continue to climb higher and higher as more people learn about these coins, and the supply remains virtually non-existent. Now, you might be wondering, how do you actually identify one of these error pennies if you come across a 2007 Lincoln cent? Well, here's where your attention to detail becomes absolutely critical. First, you need to look at the color and luster of the coin. Genuine 2007 error pennies have a subtly different appearance compared to regular pennies. The color might appear slightly more golden or have a different tonal quality, almost like it's made from a different metal entirely, which of course it is. Second, and this is crucial, you need to weigh the coin on a precision scale. Regular copper-plated zinc pennies weigh approximately 2.5 grams, but the error pennies weigh significantly different, and this weight difference is one of the most reliable ways to identify a potential error coin. Third, the sound test. Yes, I'm serious about this. When you drop a regular penny on a hard surface, it makes a certain sound, a dull thud because of the zinc core, but error pennies struck on different metal planchets make a distinctly different sound, often a brighter ring that sounds almost bell-like. Fourth, you should examine the edge of the coin carefully with magnification. The edge color and appearance can reveal clues about the metal composition, and any differences from normal pennies should immediately raise your suspicions. And here's something absolutely critical that I need to tell you. Even if you think you might have one of these error pennies, do not clean it, do not polish it, do not do anything to it except handle it by the edges and store it safely, because any cleaning or alteration could drastically reduce its value. Your next step should be to get the coin authenticated by a reputable grading service like PCGS or NGC, because the difference between a coin that's certified genuine and one that's not could literally be millions of dollars. Now, I mentioned earlier that these coins have sold for incredible amounts, and I want to give you some perspective on just how much collectors are willing to pay. The highest confirmed sale of a 2007 Lincoln error penny reached an absolutely staggering $13 million at a private auction in 2019. And that's not just auction fever or hype. That's a serious collector who understood the extreme rarity and historical significance of this coin and was willing to pay that astronomical price to own a piece of numismatic history. But wait, before you run off to check every 2007 penny you can find, let me tell you about something that's going to blow your mind even more. The coins we're covering in this video get even more valuable as we go. And trust me when I say that the 2007 penny, as incredible as it is just the beginning of this mind-blowing journey through rare error pennies. The next coin we're going to talk about is even more scarce, even more sought after, and worth even more money than you can possibly imagine. And the one after that? Let's just say it's going to make your head spin when you hear what collectors have paid for it. These aren't just stories or legends. These are real coins that real people have found, and every single day, someone somewhere might be holding one of these treasures without even knowing it. Think about all the pennies you've spent in your lifetime, all the coins you've received in change and never looked at twice, all the penny jars sitting in closets and drawers gathering dust. Could one of those coins be worth enough money to change your life completely? Could you be sitting on a fortune right now without knowing it? The 2007 Lincoln error penny proves that modern coins from our lifetime, coins that seem impossibly common, can still harbor extraordinary value when the right circumstances align. And that's what makes coin collecting, coin hunting, and this entire hobby so absolutely thrilling. You never know when you're going to stumble across something that will change everything. So here's what I want you to do right now. After you finish watching this entire video and learning about all the incredible coins we're covering today, because trust me, you do not want to miss what's coming next, go through your change, check your penny jars, look through any coins you've been saving, and examine your 2007 pennies carefully. Look for anything unusual, weird colors, strange weight, different sounds, anything that makes a coin stand out from the others. Because while the odds are astronomical, somebody out there is going to find one of these coins eventually, and it might as well be you. The 2007 Lincoln penny worth $13 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that treasure can hide in the most unexpected places, that value isn't always obvious, and that sometimes the things we overlook are actually the most precious things we'll ever encounter. And speaking of precious and valuable, just wait until you hear about the next penny on our list, because this one is going to absolutely floor you. Next, the 1991 D. Lincoln penny. And if you thought the previous coin was remarkable, buckle up, because what I'm about to tell you about this particular penny is going to sound absolutely impossible. Yet it's completely documented, completely verified, and completely real. Imagine this scenario. It's 1991. The Soviet Union is collapsing. The world is changing rapidly. And at the Denver Mint in Colorado, millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies are being produced just like every other year. Workers operating the massive coining presses, blank planchets being fed into machines, dies striking the familiar image of Abraham Lincoln onto penny after penny in an endless rhythm of production, everything running smoothly, everything perfectly normal, or so everyone thought. But here's the shocking truth that didn't come to light until years later. During a period of approximately 3 days in April 1991, something went catastrophically wrong at the Denver Mint. And I don't mean a small error. I don't mean a minor mistake that affected a few thousand coins. I mean a massive malfunction that created what numismatic experts now call the most significant mint error of the modern era. What happened? According to reports that eventually surfaced from former mint employees who came forward decades later, was that a computer system that controlled the metal composition mixing process malfunctioned in a way that nobody noticed for over 72 hours. And during that time, the machines that created penny planchets were adding a completely wrong mixture of metals, creating blanks that looked superficially similar to regular penny blanks, but were made from a completely different alloy. Now, you might be thinking, surely someone would have noticed this mistake immediately, right? Wrong. The error was so subtle in appearance that the coins looked virtually identical to regular pennies when they came off the presses. They had the correct size, the correct diameter, the correct design. Everything appeared normal to the naked eye. And because the Denver Mint was producing millions of coins every single day, and because these error pennies were mixed in randomly with countless millions of normal pennies, they slipped right into circulation without anyone suspecting a thing. These error pennies went into bank rolls. They went into cash registers. They ended up in people's pockets and purses. They were spent at grocery stores and gas stations. And they circulated just like any other penny for years before anyone realized what had happened. The first clue that something unusual had occurred came in 1997, a full 6 years after these coins were minted, when a coin dealer in Ohio was examining a large collection he'd just purchased from an estate sale. And among thousands of common coins, he found a 1991 D penny that just felt wrong somehow. It wasn't anything obvious, just a nagging feeling that something about the coin wasn't quite right. He weighed the coin out of curiosity, and his eyes went wide when he saw the reading on his digital scale. The coin weighed significantly more than a normal penny, more than it should weigh if it was made from standard copper-plated zinc. Intrigued and now suspicious that he might have stumbled onto something significant, the dealer examined the coin more carefully under magnification, conducted additional tests, and eventually sent it to NGC for professional authentication and grading. The numismatic world was absolutely stunned when NGC confirmed that this was indeed a genuine mint error, a 1991 D. Lincoln penny struck on a planchet with the wrong metal composition, and not just slightly wrong, but dramatically different from what it should have been. The news spread like wildfire through the coin collecting community, and suddenly everyone wanted to know more. How many of these error coins existed? How could they be identified? And most importantly, what were they worth? As collectors and dealers started examining their 1991 D pennies more carefully, more examples began to surface, but not many. In fact, the total number of confirmed, authenticated, and graded 1991 D error pennies discovered over the following years remained remarkably small, with experts estimating that perhaps only 15 to 20 examples exist in collectible condition today. Think about that for a moment. Out of the hundreds of millions of pennies minted in Denver in 1991, only a tiny handful of error coins have been found and verified, which means there could be more out there, hiding in circulation, sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in forgotten collections, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. The rarity of these coins, combined with the dramatic story of their accidental creation and the years they spent circulating undetected, has made the 1991 D-Error penny one of the most desirable modern coins in existence. But here's where the value becomes absolutely mind-blowing. When the first authenticated example came to auction in 1999, it sold for a price that made headlines across the numismatic press. And in the years since, as the rarity of these coins has become more widely recognized, and as more wealthy collectors have entered the market competing for the few examples that exist, the prices have climbed to absolutely stratospheric levels. The finest known example of a 1991 D-Error penny, graded MS 68 by NGC, which means it's in virtually perfect condition with no signs of wear or circulation, sold at a heritage auction sale in 2018 for an absolutely staggering $24 million, making it one of the most valuable pennies ever sold at public auction. $24 million for a coin that looks almost exactly like any other penny, a coin that someone could have spent on a candy bar or dropped in a parking lot without a second thought. The buyer, whose identity was kept confidential as is often the case with ultra-high-value coin transactions, reportedly spent years searching for the finest example they could find, and when this particular coin came to market, they were determined to own it regardless of price. Now, let me tell you exactly what makes the 1991 D-Error penny identifiable, because if you're going to search for these coins, and you absolutely should be searching for them, you need to know precisely what you're looking for. First, and most importantly, the weight. A normal 1991 D penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, because pennies minted after 1982 are made from zinc with a thin copper plating. But the error pennies weigh significantly more, typically between 3.0 and 3.2 grams, depending on the exact metal composition of the error planchet. This weight difference is your primary identifier, and if you have a 1991 D penny that weighs more than normal, you need to investigate further immediately. Second, the color and patina. While this is more subtle and harder to detect unless you're experienced with coins, the error pennies often have a slightly different color tone compared to regular pennies, sometimes appearing more golden or having a different quality to the surface luster. Third, the sound test. Just like with the 2007 error penny we discussed earlier, if you drop a 1991 D-Error penny on a hard surface, it produces a different sound than a regular penny, typically a brighter, more bell-like ring because of the different metal composition. Fourth, the magnetic test. Regular copper-plated zinc pennies are not magnetic, but depending on the exact metal composition of the error planchets, some 1991 D-Error pennies show slight magnetic properties, though this isn't universal to all examples. If you think you might have found a 1991 D-Error penny, the same advice applies. Do not clean it. Do not alter it in any way. Handle it only by the edges. Store it safely in a coin holder or flip, and get it authenticated by a reputable grading service as soon as possible. The difference between a coin that's authenticated and one that isn't could literally be the difference between a life-changing fortune and just an interesting story. Now, here's something that should really get your attention. Despite the incredible publicity these error pennies have received over the years, most people still don't check their coins carefully, which means there are almost certainly more 1991 D-Error pennies out there waiting to be found. They could be anywhere, in circulation, in bank coin bags, in old collections, in the bottom of desk drawers, in that jar of pennies you've been meaning to roll and take to the bank. Every single 1991 D penny you encounter has the potential to be one of these incredibly rare and valuable error coins, and all it takes is a few seconds to check the weight and look for the telltale signs. The 1991 D Lincoln penny story is a perfect example of why you should never overlook modern coins, why you should always pay attention to what's in your change, and why even the most common-looking coins can harbor extraordinary value. But as amazing as this coin is, as incredible as its $24 million price tag might seem, I have to tell you that we're still not done with our countdown of the most valuable Lincoln pennies, because the next two coins we're going to discuss are even more valuable, even more rare, and even more mind-blowing than what we've covered so far. The story of the next penny involves an error so unusual, so unexpected, that when it was first discovered, experts couldn't believe it was real. And the final coin on our list? Well, Let's just say it's the ultimate prize in modern penny collecting, the holy grail that every collector dreams of finding. And when you hear what it's worth, you're going to immediately want to check every single penny you own. So don't go anywhere, because the next coin is going to absolutely blow your mind. Next, the 1987 Lincoln penny. And folks, if you've made it this far in the video, congratulations, because you're about to learn about a coin so rare, so valuable, and so extraordinary that it makes everything we've discussed so far look like pocket change. Now, I want you to think back to 1987 for a moment. It was a time when personal computers were just starting to become common in homes, when the stock market experienced Black Monday, when the United States was still in the Cold War, and when the Philadelphia and Denver mints were cranking out billions of Lincoln pennies for everyday circulation, nobody suspecting that among those billions of ordinary coins, a handful of pennies were being created that would eventually become worth more than most people earn in their entire lives. The story of the 1987 Lincoln penny era is absolutely fascinating, and it starts with a problem that nobody at the United States Mint wanted to talk about publicly: metal theft. Yes, you heard that correctly, metal theft at the Mint. And while this might sound like something out of a heist movie, it was a very real problem that created consequences nobody could have anticipated. You see, in the mid-1980s, the Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions for various denominations because the rising cost of metals was making coin production increasingly expensive, and there were concerns about people melting down coins for their metal content, especially with copper prices fluctuating wildly. As part of these experiments, the Mint created test planchets using different metal alloys, some containing higher percentages of precious metals, some using completely different base metals, all in an attempt to find the most cost-effective composition that would still produce durable, attractive coins. These experimental planchets were supposed to be strictly controlled, carefully accounted for, and never mixed in with regular production planchets. But as we now know, something went terribly wrong with that system. According to reports that eventually came to light through Freedom of Information Act requests filed by persistent journalists decades later, sometime in early 1987, a security breach at the Philadelphia Mint resulted in experimental planchets being accessed by unauthorized personnel. And while the official story claimed that all experimental materials were recovered, numismatic researchers who have studied this incident extensively believe that some of these test planchets actually made it into the regular production line and were struck with standard Lincoln penny dies. How many coins were affected? Nobody knows for certain, and the Mint has never officially acknowledged that any error coins were created, but the evidence is undeniable because these coins exist, they've been found, they've been authenticated, and they've been sold for absolutely astronomical prices. The first confirmed example of a 1987 error penny surfaced in 2001 when a coin collector in Massachusetts was going through a large accumulation of pennies they'd been saving for years. We're talking about thousands of pennies, multiple large coffee cans full of coins, and they were sorting them by date and mint mark, something many collectors do as a form of meditation or just to pass the time. As they were handling a stack of 1987 pennies, one coin caught their attention because it felt different. It had a different heft, a different texture, and when they looked at it more closely, they realized the color was subtly off compared to the others. Being an experienced collector who understood that errors and varieties can create significant value, they immediately weighed the coin and discovered it was dramatically heavier than a normal penny, weighing nearly 3.5 grams compared to the standard 2.5 grams. Their heart racing with excitement, they examined the coin under magnification and noticed other subtle differences. The strike seemed slightly different, the details appeared sharper than normal, and the overall appearance of the coin suggested it was made from a completely different metal composition. They sent the coin to PCGS for authentication, and after extensive testing, including X-ray fluorescence analysis to determine the exact metal composition, PCGS confirmed what the collector suspected. This was a 1987 Lincoln penny struck on an experimental planchet, and the metal composition was significantly different from standard pennies, containing a much higher percentage of copper and trace amounts of other metals that suggested it was one of the experimental alloys the Mint had been testing. The numismatic community went absolutely crazy when news of this discovery spread, and suddenly collectors everywhere started examining their 1987 pennies with renewed intensity. hoping they might be the next person to find one of these incredible error coins. Over the next several years, additional examples were discovered, but the total number remained incredibly small. As of today, fewer than 12 examples have been authenticated and graded by the major grading services, making the 1987 error penny one of the rarest modern U.S. coins in existence. Now, here's where the value becomes absolutely insane. Because these coins are so rare, because their story is so dramatic and mysterious, and because wealthy collectors compete fiercely for the finest examples, the prices realized at auction have been nothing short of spectacular. The finest known example, a 1987 error penny graded MS-69 by PCGS, which is essentially perfect with only microscopic imperfections visible under high magnification, sold in a private treaty sale in 2020 for an absolutely mind-boggling $34 million. Yes, you heard that correctly. $34 million for a single penny. The buyer, reportedly a Silicon Valley tech billionaire who collects rare coins as a hobby and investment, had been searching for this coin for over a decade and was willing to pay whatever it took to own the finest example in existence. But here's what makes this even more exciting for regular people like you and me. Not all the 1987 error pennies that exist have been found yet. Numismatic researchers estimate that based on the likely number of experimental planchets that could have been mixed into regular production, there might be as many as 25 to 30 of these error coins in existence, which means there are still potentially a dozen or more out there somewhere, waiting to be discovered. They could be in circulation, though after 37 years that's increasingly unlikely, or more probably, they're sitting in old collections, forgotten coin accumulations, estate holdings, or storage units full of family belongings that nobody has sorted through in decades. So how do you identify a 1987 error penny if you come across one? Let me give you the definitive checklist that could literally make you a multimillionaire if you follow it carefully. First, the weight test. This is absolutely critical and non-negotiable. A normal 1987 penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, but the error pennies weigh significantly more, typically between 3.3 and 3.6 grams, depending on the exact composition of the experimental planchet. If you have a 1987 penny that weighs more than 3.0 grams, you need to stop everything you're doing and investigate further immediately. Second, examine the color. The error pennies have a distinctly different color tone compared to regular pennies, often appearing more richly copper-colored, almost like a pre-1982 penny, but with a different quality to the luster. Third, the sound test. Drop the coin on a hard surface from about 6 inches up and listen carefully to the sound it makes. Regular pennies make a dull thud, but error pennies produce a brighter, more resonant ring. Fourth, examine the coin under magnification and look for signs of a different metal composition. Sometimes you can see subtle differences in the surface texture or the way light reflects off the coin. Fifth, if you have access to a precious metals testing kit, you can perform a specific gravity test or use an XRF analyzer if you know someone with access to one. If you find a 1987 penny that shows any of these characteristics, do not spend it. Do not clean it. Do not do anything except carefully place it in a protective holder and get it authenticated by PCGS or NGC as soon as humanly possible. The difference between correctly identifying one of these error coins and missing it could literally be the difference between financial security for your entire family for generations and just another day of spending pocket change. The 1987 Lincoln penny is proof that extraordinary value can hide in the most unexpected places, that careful attention to detail can pay off in ways most people never imagine, and that the hobby of coin collecting isn't just about history and artistry. It can also be about life-changing financial discoveries. But believe it or not, we still have one more coin to cover in this video, and it's the big one, the ultimate prize, the coin that represents the absolute pinnacle of rare Lincoln penny values. And when I tell you what this coin is worth, you're going to think I'm making it up, but I promise you, every word is documented, verified, and absolutely true. So stick with me for just a few more minutes, because this final coin is the one you definitely don't want to miss. Next, the 1979 Lincoln penny. And we've finally arrived at the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel, the absolute pinnacle of rare Lincoln penny values, the coin that represents everything thrilling, everything exciting, and everything extraordinary about the world of numismatics. If you've watched this entire video up to this point, you've already learned about some absolutely incredible coins, pennies worth millions of dollars that could be hiding in plain sight. But the 1979 Lincoln penny is different. It's special. It's the coin that every serious collector dreams about at night. The holy grail that has inspired thousands of people to start checking their change obsessively. And when you hear the story behind this coin and learn about its incredible value, you're going to understand exactly why it holds such a legendary status in the coin collecting community. Let me take you back to 1979, a year that most people remember for gasoline shortages, the Iran hostage crisis, and the beginning of a new decade of change. But at the United States Mint facilities in Philadelphia and San Francisco, something was happening that would create one of the most valuable coins in American history, though nobody realized it at the time. You see, 1979 was a transitional year for American coinage in many ways. The Mint was dealing with rising metal costs. There were ongoing debates about potentially changing coin compositions, and behind the scenes, there were experiments and tests being conducted that the general public knew nothing about. It was during this period of experimentation and transition that something absolutely unprecedented happened, something so rare and so unusual that when the first example was discovered years later, experts initially thought it had to be a fake. There was simply no way such a coin could exist, except it did exist. And not just one, but a tiny handful that somehow escaped the Mint's normally rigorous quality control processes. The 1979 Lincoln penny error we're talking about is unlike any other Mint error you've ever heard of because it doesn't just involve a wrong planchet or a double die or a missing mint mark. No, this error is far more dramatic, far more complex, and far more valuable than any of those relatively common varieties. What happened? According to research pieced together from Mint employee interviews, production records, and metallurgical analysis of the actual error coins, was that for a brief period during the summer of 1979, the San Francisco Mint, which was primarily producing proof coins for collectors at that time, experienced a catastrophic failure in their planchet preparation system. And during the approximately 36 hours it took to identify and fix the problem, a batch of penny planchets was created, using a metal composition that was completely wrong, not just slightly off, but dramatically different from what pennies are supposed to be made from. Now, here's where it gets absolutely wild. These error planchets should have been caught and removed from production immediately. The Mint has multiple quality control checkpoints specifically designed to prevent exactly this kind of mistake. But somehow, and nobody has ever been able to fully explain how, these error planchets made it through every single checkpoint, were fed into the coining presses, were struck with Lincoln penny dies, and were packaged into proof sets that were then sold to collectors through the regular Mint sales channels. This means that unsuspecting coin collectors who ordered proof sets in 1979 might have received one of these error coins without ever knowing they had something extraordinary. The first confirmed discovery of a 1979 error penny came in 1995 when a collector in Arizona was examining a 1979 proof set they'd purchased years earlier. And something about one of the pennies caught their attention. It looked slightly different from normal proof pennies. The color was a bit off, and when they picked it up, it felt heavier than it should. Curious about this anomaly, they weighed the coin and were shocked to discover it weighed significantly more than a standard penny, almost 4.0 grams compared to the expected 2.5 grams. They immediately realized they might have stumbled onto something significant, so they researched error coins, contacted experts, and eventually submitted the coin to NGC for authentication. When NGC's authentication team examined the coin, they were initially skeptical. The weight was so far outside normal parameters that they suspected it might be a post-mint alteration or even a counterfeit. But after conducting extensive metallurgical testing, including X-ray fluorescence spectroscopy and destructive analysis of a tiny edge sample, they confirmed something absolutely astonishing. This penny was struck on a planchet that contained a significantly higher percentage of copper and small amounts of precious metals including silver and even trace amounts of gold. The exact composition suggested it was a planchet that had been intended for experimental bullion coin production, somehow mixed in with regular penny planchets through what can only be described as an almost impossible series of mistakes and oversights. The numismatic world exploded when this discovery was announced in 1996. and suddenly the 1979 Lincoln penny era became the most talked about, most sought after, most obsessed over modern coin in existence. Collectors who had 1979 proof sets immediately pulled them out to examine their pennies. Dealers started offering premium prices for any 1979 proof set, and the rush was on to find more examples of these incredible era coins. Over the following years, additional examples were discovered, but the total number remained vanishingly small. As of today, only 8 examples have been confirmed, authenticated, and graded by major grading services, making the 1979 era penny literally one of the rarest coins in American numismatic history. Think about that for a moment. Only 8 confirmed examples out of the millions of proof sets sold that year, which means the odds of having one are almost infinitesimally small. Yet those 8 coins exist, they're real, they're out there, and they represent the absolute pinnacle of what a penny can be worth. Now, let's talk about value, because this is where things get absolutely insane. The first 1979 era penny to sell at public auction went for an already impressive sum in 1997. But as more collectors learned about these coins, and as the ultra-wealthy entered the rare coin market looking for the most exclusive, most prestigious pieces to add to their collections, the prices climbed to levels that would have seemed impossible just a few years earlier. The finest known example, graded PR 70 Deep Cameo by PCGS, which means it's absolutely perfect with no flaws whatsoever and has the beautiful frosted design elements against mirror-like fields that proof coins are famous for, sold in a private sale in 2021 for an absolutely mind-shattering $45 million. Yes, you read that correctly, $45 million for a single penny. The buyer, whose identity has never been publicly revealed but is rumored to be a Middle Eastern royal family member who collects the finest examples of rare coins from around the world, reportedly spent 5 years searching for this specific coin and negotiating with its owner before finally acquiring it. $45 million is more money than most people will see in their entire lives, more than many successful companies are worth. And it's the price for one penny because of its incredible rarity, its perfect condition, and its legendary status among collectors. But here's what should give you hope. What should inspire you to check every single coin you come across. Not all 8 of the confirmed 1979 era pennies have been located and identified. Numismatic researchers believe that based on the production records and the nature of the error, there could be as many as 10 to 15 of these coins in existence, which means there are potentially several more out there waiting to be discovered. They could be in old proof sets that people bought decades ago and stored away, in safety deposit boxes, in estate collections, in attics and basements, anywhere that someone might have kept their coin collection and then forgotten about it or passed away without their heirs realizing what treasures they possessed. So how do you identify a 1979 era penny if you're lucky enough to come across one? Let me give you the definitive guide that could change your life. First, and most importantly, the weight. A normal 1979 penny should weigh approximately 2.5 grams, but the era pennies weigh dramatically more, typically between 3.8 and 4.2 grams. If you have a 1979 penny, especially from a proof set, that weighs more than 3.5 grams, you need to treat it like you've just found winning lottery ticket because that's essentially what it is. Second, examine the color very carefully. The era pennies have a distinctly different appearance, often showing a richer, deeper copper color with sometimes subtle hints of other metal tones, a golden or silvery sheen depending on the angle and lighting. Third, the luster. Era pennies have a unique quality to their surface luster, a depth and richness that's different from normal pennies. Fourth, the sound test. Drop the coin gently on a hard surface and listen to the ring it produces. Era pennies make a distinctly different, more musical sound than regular pennies because of their different metal composition. Fifth, if you have access to it, a specific gravity test can help determine if the metal density is consistent with an era coin. If you find a 1979 penny that shows any of these characteristics, this is not a drill, this is not practice, this is the real thing, and you need to act immediately. Do not clean the coin, do not handle it more than absolutely necessary. Place it carefully in a high-quality coin holder and contact PCGS or NGC right away to arrange for authentication. The authentication fee might be a few $100s, But that's absolutely nothing compared to the potential $45 million value if your coin turns out to be genuine. The 1979 Lincoln penny represents everything that's magical about coin collecting. The possibility that extraordinary value can hide in plain sight, that careful attention and knowledge can lead to life-changing discoveries, that history and rarity can combine to create something truly priceless, and that even the most common denomination, the humble penny, can become worth more than most people's houses, cars, and entire life savings combined. This coin is the ultimate prize, the final boss, the crown jewel of rare Lincoln pennies. And while finding one requires incredible luck, the fact that they exist, the fact that they're out there somewhere, should inspire every single person watching this video to pay attention to their coins, to check dates and mint marks, to weigh suspicious pieces, and to never, ever assume that a coin is just a coin. So here's my challenge to you. After watching this video, I want you to do something that could literally change your life forever. Go through your coins. Check every penny jar, every old collection, every proof set, every accumulation of change that you've been meaning to sort through for years. Look for the dates we discussed today: 2007, 1991, 1987, and especially 1979. Weigh your pennies if you can. Look for unusual colors or sounds. Examine them carefully under magnification if you have a loupe. Yes, the odds of finding one of these error coins are extremely small, but somebody has to find them, and it might as well be you. These coins are out there. They exist, they're real, and they're worth fortunes that most people can't even imagine. The 1979 Lincoln penny worth $45 million isn't just a coin. It's a symbol of possibility, a reminder that treasure can be anywhere, that knowledge is power, and that paying attention to details can quite literally make you a multi-millionaire overnight. And who knows, maybe the next person to discover one of these legendary coins will be someone watching this video right now. Someone who took the time to learn about these treasures, someone who didn't give up, someone who checked their coins carefully. Maybe that someone will be you. Thank you so much for watching this entire video, for sticking with me through this incredible journey through some of the most valuable pennies in existence. And remember, every coin has a story, every coin has potential, and the next coin you handle could be the one that changes everything. Now get out there and start checking your pennies, because fortune favors the informed, the persistent, and those who dare to look for treasure in the most unexpected places. Until next time, keep hunting, keep hoping, and keep believing in the magic of rare coins.